Hi guys, I'm back again today with a continuation to our videos. Today we're checking out Burned Out and Exploited. Why Americans are moving to Germany for work. So let's hear what they have to say. Yesterday we reacted to people in the Netherlands. Okay, now these are people in Germany. So that's going to be like I want to see if it's going to be like similar to the Netherlands or is it going to be a little bit or a lot different? We'll find out. Before we do start, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button, and let's get it.
Just outrageous. And every time now that I think back on that, I'm like,
It makes you kind of sick.
does nobody else realize, I'm sorry, but like how up this is? It doesn't matter if you're lying on a beach or if you're lying in a hospital bed. Your employer doesn't care.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. If you haven't watched us before, my name is Jonathan,
I'm Ashton.
and together with our son Jack, we are the Black Forest family. And in a few videos now, we've kind of danced around the topic of paid time off.
Yeah, this has actually come up. Probably the first time was in our healthcare part 2 video where we talked about some of the additional benefits like sick leave as part of the public health insurance scheme in Germany. But we've also talked about it a little bit in a pregnancy video, a little bit in the working in Germany video, and actually most recently this came up in a video we did just a couple of weeks ago on how to vacation like a German in talking about vacation time and paid time off.
And while we've talked about this topic here and there, we really do think it is important enough and rich and deep enough that it deserves a dedicated video with one of our normal deep dives and examining the nuances of paid time off between Germany and the United States.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you need time off to take care of a loved one, to take care of a new baby, or maybe you just want the time off to explore a new exotic destination, in my case, find a new beach. To be quite honest with you guys, the differences between the US and Germany with paid time off is probably the most stark, the most dramatic culture shock, for lack of a better word, that we could probably point out. It's the biggest one.
And one of the biggest reasons why we are still enjoying our time here in Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's give this topic the detail and attention that it deserves by doing a proper Black Forest family video and providing a comprehensive primer on paid time off between Germany and the United States. So let's dive in.
Okay, so before we get started at looking at the national and regional differences, it's worth us explaining how the United States and how Germany defines this type of time off.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's funny. In most US companies, they're going to broadly refer to PTO or paid time off. And that's interesting because in most employer HR guidelines, they're going to lump it all together. Paternity leave, maternity leave, sick leave, vacation time, it's all one thing. Whether you need a week or a couple of hours just to go to a doctor's office, it's all grouped together under paid time off.
So while there are, of course, some outliers, there are some companies that have their own specific rules. Overall, in general, with most companies, you have an 8-hour workday where if you take time away from your desk, those hours individually will be taken out of your PTO.
Yeah, so for example, if they were to say, sure, you get 10 days of paid time off, that would be 80 hours. And they will, in fact, deduct it to the hour of the time that you're away from your desk. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Time away is time away, period.
So by contrast, Germany has many different kinds of leave that are all federally regulated. So as a German, you are familiar with the Erholungsurlaub, which is vacation, Krankenstand, which is the sick leave, Elternzeit, which is parental leave, or the Mutterschutz, which is maternity leave, and that's just to name a few.
And while, yes, we do have some similar regulations and words that do translate into American English working regulations, the biggest difference here is that compared to Germany, these types of leave are largely unregulated. And for those states that do have some kind of law, you're going to see huge differences, not just from state to state, but also from company to company. So it's really kind of a mixed bag, and I think that's probably going to be a huge theme throughout this entire video.
So let's take a closer look at how these different types of time off compare between Germany and the United States.
Okay, so I think the best place to start off this entire conversation is to start with the big guy, the biggest one on the list, which is probably the vacation time, right?
Everybody's favorite.
Everybody's favorite. So let's start by talking about what the regulations are, or lack thereof, in the United States.
So to get started, while Americans are entitled to 12 weeks of unpaid vacation time through the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, there is no federally regulated vacation minimum.
So that inevitably means that more often than not, it's actually up to the individual states to make rules and regulations, but more frequently, it often just lands in the hands of individual companies to make up their own rules.
So most employees in the United States are given a set number of PTO days per their work contract. So according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2017, employees who had worked for 1 year in the private industry received an average of 10 days of paid leave a year. And while those who had worked more than 20 years received an average of 23 days of paid leave per year.
So, in other words, the average American employee that would work for one of these private industry businesses can generally expect to gain 3 to 4 extra PTO days for every 5 years of service. Again, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. This data, stemming from a representative sample of US workers, confirms that just like Germany, vacation days do increase over time. But according to the feds, by the time you've worked 10 years at the same employer, you've put 3 weeks of paid vacation in your pocket. And as you'll see in a second, that's going to be pretty different from what you can expect in Germany. But I don't want to get ahead of myself here too soon.
But I think it is important to point out that PTO is not only given to salary employees. Some
true.
businesses will give PTO to hourly employees, really kind of in the same way. You begin the year with a certain number of PTO and you can use it as you wish.
However, there are other businesses that will approach PTO in a completely separate way by actually asking their employees to accrue it over time as they work throughout the year. And let me explain. So in this case, earning, for example, 1 hour of PTO for every 40 hours that they work. This means that if an employee works a 40-hour work week, they will accrue 1 hour of PTO a week. So for example, if they work for 50 weeks of the year, they will have accumulated 50 hours of PTO. And essentially what this means is that they will only have 6.25 paid days off per year. And this is completely legal and completely allowed. However, by contrast, here in Germany, things could not be more different. In fact, full-time workers are entitled to 24 days of paid vacation time. That's practically 5 weeks that you just get for working at a full-time job. And now granted, part-time workers, they do get pretty.
Before we continue, I just want to say the good thing about the vacation in Europe and even in the States is it's paid. But here, it's only a few companies that will few only, like emphasis on the few, right? Like capital FEW, the few. Only a few companies will pay you on a leave, because if it's a leave, it's like, yo, do you boo boo, like we are, like it's your life, we're not gonna pay you because you're not existent at work. And I think the maximum leave is 15 days. Yeah, 15 days. You have like, I think, 10 days if I remember correctly, but I it also depends on the company that you work with. I remember you get a week vacation, and then you get 5 days sick leave, so that gives you like somewhat 2 weeks, because if it's 5 days you can just add the weekends. So anyways, basically 15 days of a vacation in a year, if you add it to your sick leave, of course, right? And even if you're sick, there's no pay either. Like, if you're not working, you're not getting paid. That is how it works over here. So the fact that they pay you for a leave, that is new to my ears, right? But anyways, let's continue.
Healthy paid time off as well. This, of course, is going to be given on a prorated basis depending on the number of hours that they work.
Yeah, typically most employers here in Germany will give even more days than that, typically
Yeah.
between 27 and 30 days.
Yeah.
I know for me personally, I came to Germany after working at a company for 1 year, and I went from my 10 days PTO to 25 days of vacation time. So for a very young guy living in Europe, this was just a revolutionary experience. I had all the time in the world to go home and see my family and just travel around Europe and enjoy myself.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, actually. And I think what really sort of just cements this even further is that, quite frankly, in Germany, you are required by law to take a vacation. I'm completely serious. And by the way, a vacation that is at a 2-week minimum.
So as we've commented time and time again, vacation
Minimum,
time in
okay.
Germany is highly valued.
Yeah.
So for one,
Minimum.
bosses in Germany are not allowed to contact you while you're on vacation unless it is extremely urgent.
Yeah, I feel like, so by extremely urgent, I mean like hell needed to have frozen over, thawed, refroze again, and then like some like massive emergency had to have happened for them to ever dream about calling you on your vacation or getting a hold of you. Like, it has to be, I mean, truly an emergency.
Yeah, all the contingency plans they had in place for you being gone have failed, and the entire business is about to go bankrupt.
Yeah, something
like that. But
something
anyway,
like that.
it is federally regulated that you must be able to take at least 2 continuous weeks off for your holiday to stay away from work, relax, and be ready to come back and charge again.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And while I don't want to get too carried away here, because we actually do have a couple of other points we need to mention before the end of this section, I do think it's worth mentioning here that it is actually legally allowed that you are usually able to roll over some of those vacation days as long as you use them by March 31st. However, it's going to vary from work contract to work contract, because most work contracts will usually stipulate that they only allow you to roll them over if it's due to like really significant operational or personnel reasons that force you to roll them over. It's not always the case. Sometimes you have employers that are a little bit more lax about this and they just let you use it as long as you use it again in like the first quarter. But it's worth noting that that actually is legally protected.
So by contrast, if for some reason you don't get around to using your paid time off in the United States, it is worth noting that only some states have laws in place that will pay you for this paid time off you don't use, or allow you to roll it over into the next year. It is important to note that there is no federally regulated law to
Protect this.
protect this.
Yeah. So businesses in other states, for example, may actually adopt a use it or lose it policy. If there's no law regulating that they allow people to roll it over, if you just have unused PTO,
Same here.
they just simply disappear. And that's important because according to a study from the US Travel Association's Project Time Off, 52% of Americans didn't even use all of their vacation days in 2017.
And once again, sick leave is something that is extremely different between the United States and Germany, and one of the other reasons why we have chosen to continue living and working and studying here.
Yeah, exactly. So, just like vacation time, sick leave is another one of those things that there really isn't any sort of federal mandate about given paid time off specifically for. Now, again, you are probably going to be subject to the Family and Medical Leave Act or the FMLA. This act does require unpaid sick leave, but unpaid. FMLA provides for up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for certain medical situations for either the employee or for a member of the employee's immediate family. But here's the crazy part. Employees are only eligible to take FMLA leave if they have worked for their employer for at least 12 months and have worked for at least 1,250 hours over the previous 12 months, and work at a location where there are at least 50 employees employed by the employer within 75 miles.
So basically, what that means for small businesses in the United
Never.
States, they are not required to follow the FMLA, and they can offer you only 4 to 6 weeks of unpaid leave or none at all.
Nope.
What that means is if you're sick and you're not able to show up for work, they are legally allowed to fire you.
Yeah, if you're out of PTO,
If you're out of PTO.
they're allowed to fire you, which is insane. And again, I feel like this is sort of the whole point of all of this is that when referring to time off, we keep saying PTO because in the United States, for a ton of workers, vacation time and sick time are one and the same.
It's the time away from your desk.
Yep, they're grouped together. It doesn't matter if you're lying on a beach or if you're lying in a hospital bed. Your employer doesn't care. You're not at your desk, away from that PTO, and once it's gone, and yeah, they can fire you.
And there are very few exceptions to this rule. There are laws on the books in certain states, cities, counties, and towns that require employers to provide paid time off for short-term health needs and preventative care. The only states, as of 2022, with paid sick leave laws are California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Oregon, and Vermont.
Yeah, so in a couple videos now, I've shared the story. So if you've watched them, I hope this isn't redundant, but I feel like, again, this is worth saying. So in my job in the United States, again, working for academia, we were given a set number of PTO days. While I was working there, there was another employee who unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer. And rather than the university giving this person additional time off to rest and recover at home or have time to go to their chemo treatments, instead, what they did was host a PTO drive where us fellow university employees were asked to donate our paid time off so that that person could still receive a paycheck to pay their bills while they're battling cancer. And that's not only considered completely normal, but a wonderful and nice thing to offer. Whereas now that I live in Germany, I'm like, why wasn't the university helping this person?
It's like a GoFundMe for PTO, which again, GoFundMe is also...
It's just outrageous. And every time now that I think back on that, I'm like,
It makes you kind of sick.
it does nobody else realize, I'm sorry, but how effed up this is? That's just outrageous.
Yeah.
It's just so
I
sad.
feel bad.
Ugh.
I feel bad for that person. I'm emotional now. That's so sad. Because I'm thinking, what if we are in the shoes of that person? We're in the same situation as that person. We don't want to lose our job because we need money to go through our chemo, our treatments, and all that stuff. And you can't even have a day off. I mean, if your colleagues were not good, nice people, they will not donate. And now you're effed. What are you gonna do? Maybe that's why there's a high depression, suicidal rate. I don't even know if I can say that on YouTube in the States because your system is crazy. Wow. Now that I'm thinking about it, yes, in the Philippines we don't have a lot of vacation leave and sick leave, whatever. But the reason is because we like holidays. We have a lot of holidays in the Philippines, so it kind of like adds into those also people's vacation, and they always like you always have off on holidays at work. So in a year in the Philippines, you probably have like what a lot of holidays. I can't even think. Let me Google it whilst we listen.
Yeah.
It's just so sad. Ugh.
So, but by contrast, and to try to lighten the mood here a little bit, taking time away if you're sick in Germany is not discouraged. It's actually encouraged. I know my own employer, if anybody in the office is feeling ill, it is best to go home. Just go home, relax, recover, do not stay in the office and make everybody else sick. And again, in the United States with PTO, you
This year
might not
alone,
have
we
any
have
days off because you
16
have a vacation coming
non-working
up. People
holidays.
often come in, even if they're sick, and
Plus,
unfortunately, that
this is the national holidays, right? This is national. So it's just in the Philippines. But sometimes in provinces, they also have the non working holidays or even like private sect non working holidays. So let's just say if it's 60, let's say 20, because we have Baguio Day, which in the people in this city will not work as well. So if you add that, also, right? And like Benguet Day or Cordillera Day or something like that. So again, we will not work during that day. So that's 17 for people who live here. 17 days, right? So that's good also. Like we like holidays. So even if our leaves are not necessarily like a lot, we have a lot of holidays anyways that we celebrate, so you could find like a lot of people going home, hanging out with their family during those holidays. And mostly holidays are like Mondays or Fridays, intentionally made by the government so that you can have a longer weekend, right? um as well. And also, since we're in the Philippines, we have a lot of typhoon. So there's also again not a lot of working happening. So basically we're broke because most of the companies don't pay people during those times still. So yay. More holiday, less money, right? But anyways, let's go back.
have any days off because you have a vacation coming up, people often come in, even if they're sick. And unfortunately, that means everybody gets sick.
Yeah.
And now that we're at the end of this pandemic, it really kind of hits home of how bad this can get.
Yeah, exactly. I really feel sort of like the German laws, they really do prioritize the workers' health and well-being, and it's a really refreshing departure. If you're employed in Germany, you're legally entitled to fully paid sick leave for up to a continuous 6 weeks, but only if you can present a sick note called an Arbeitsunfähigkeitsbescheinigung in German from your doctor.
And in the unfortunate event that you do
The
have a
name.
long-term illness, after 6 weeks of regular paid sick leave, you'll receive Krankengeld, which is literally translated to sick money, for a maximum of 90% of your wage after taxes, up to a maximum of 112 euros and 88 cents per day as of today in 2022, for up to 72 weeks in a 3-year period.
And in the unfortunate event that you actually fall ill during a scheduled vacation time, if you get a note from your doctor, you can actually get those vacation days back, because sick time and vacation time are totally separate things in Germany.
Yeah, if you're sick on your vacation, you're not resting, which is what the vacation was supposed to be for, and you deserve those days back so you can be rested.
Yeah, so for example, we were just in Thailand, and if in the unfortunate event that I was ill, if I could document it, yeah, we could have all of those or some of those days back,
Which makes absolute sense. That's what it's for.
exactly.
All right, everybody, for this next one, especially for our German audience, if you weren't already in complete shock about the regulations or lack thereof
Yeah.
with paid time off in the United States, this one right here is probably going to fully cement it for you. So let's talk about maternity leave.
Yeah, so let's not beat around the bush. I'll just get straight to the point here. The United States is the only OECD country with no federally mandated maternity, paternity, or parental leave. There is no nationwide regulation on this.
So once again, we're going to have to point back to the Family and Medical Leave Act, which we've already brought up a couple of times.
Yep.
And basically this means that parents can go on maternity leave or family leave after the adoption or birth of a child. Under this law, legal parents are protected for up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave per year.
And I feel like here, whereas before we've emphasized the word unpaid, I think that's pretty clear at this point. But there's another word in that law that I find particularly interesting. It's after the birth or adoption of the child. And there again is a huge departure from German regulations because in the United States, you're only protected to get that time off unpaid after the birth of a child. There's nothing in any law written about the time before the baby is born. So in the US, it is completely common that women will work up to the day they give birth. And
What?
weirdly, my mom, if you're watching this video, you're kind of the perfect example of this.
It's like,
She
what
tells
a
the story
bricks
all
at
the time
work?
that she actually went to work the day she had me. And she had a doctor's appointment on her lunch hour. And they told her, they're like, yeah, you're gonna have a baby today. And she's like, oh man, I guess I'll go to the hospital. And I just like showed up a couple of hours later.
Here comes Ashton.
Here comes Ashton. Yeah, like, but the thing is, guys, this is totally normal. Like women who are heavily pregnant are likely to still be at work.
Up until the last hour. Yeah.
Up until the
Yeah.
last hour sometimes.
America's
But
seriously
we also
working.
should probably
They need
again,
a life.
emphasize this whole like unpaid part because during these 12 weeks, while your job
gonna
is
die at
protected,
your
your
desk.
paycheck isn't really necessarily. So that's why in the US that often this falls to either individual states to make these mandates and regulations or individual companies, which I feel like is honestly more common because offering paid maternity leave or paid parental leave is seen as a way for private businesses to attract employees to their company.
They can differentiate themselves from other companies.
Right, yeah, they can set themselves apart by saying like, hey, we offer 3 months of paid paternity leave or paid maternity leave.
So I'm going to go work there and not this other
right,
place.
so I'm gonna work there. Yeah, it's not something that's like equal across the board. Rather, it's like a bargaining chip to go work for a company.
Which leads to a pretty mixed bag of state benefits
Yeah.
depending on where you are employed. So there are 9 states such as California, Colorado, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Washington, and the District of Columbia, which offer paid family and maternity leave. But in all 9 of these states, the law is clear. These benefits don't begin until after the baby's born.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
and in contrast, that honestly couldn't be more different to what we actually have here in Germany, where new mothers are entitled to 14 weeks of paid maternity leave, both to be split before and after your baby arrives.
And you know, really, as an American, we weren't really used to anyone having our back like that. Not the government, not an employer, not anybody.
No, and you know, I just feel like in a way, it's really nice to have laws that are human.
Okay, so for this next one, this is for you, any Americans who are watching this video, because we do actually have to have a separate section for this. This is parental leave or Elternzeit here in Germany, and this is completely different than the Mutterschutz or the maternity leave.
Yeah, so I
There's
feel like
more?
probably for the Americans, this comes as no surprise, but maybe for the Germans, you might find this pretty shocking.
Oh.
similar to maternity leave, but I feel like even more dramatically so. Um, Parental leave in the United States, it largely doesn't exist from
Oh.
a regulatory standpoint.
So in the last section, we did mention that there were 9 states plus the District of Columbia, which had paid family and maternity leave. And this included fathers. They actually qualified to take the time off as well.
Yeah, which that's fantastic, but I don't want to be Debbie Downer over here, but I should also mention that also means that there are 41 other states that have nothing in the laws that
Yeah.
require paid time off after the birth of a child for the mother or the father, which is, again, I feel like why it's worth mentioning that this is, again, why family leave is used as a bargaining chip for many private industry companies to attract workers to come work for them. That it'll be an attractive benefit that they will offer to potential employees. But by contrast, under German law, new mothers and fathers are entitled to take something called Elternzeit. Both parents can
Elton
use this
site.
parental allowance to alleviate any loss of their earnings during this period, and they can choose to use the parental leave anytime between their child's birth and their 3rd birthday. And they can take the leave simultaneously or separately.
So now, during this time, you're not going to receive 100% of your normal paycheck here in Germany, but
But at least you
in the
get
9
something.
US states, you're also not going to receive 100% of your normal paycheck during this time.
Yeah, that is fair. So during Elternzeit, normally these parents will also apply for something called Elterngeld. This is a state-funded program which pays up to 1,800 euros a month to compensate for the lack of salary that they would have during this extended parental
What?
leave. But importantly, in Germany, a parent who is taking Elternzeit can decide to not work at all or only work part-time, up to 32 hours a week. And most importantly,
It would be cool
and
to
really
have
this is the key here,
part-time. Like,
guys, your
wow.
job is protected during parental leave. So even if you've been gone for 2 years during an extended
2
parental
years.
leave, you can still come back to your job, your exact
Wow.
position. It's protected.
Yeah, there might be somebody filling in for you with a
Oh,
temporary
really?
Yeah.
employment during this time. That's their contract, but
Oh,
once you
that's
come
so
back, they're
cool.
gone and you have
Because
your job again.
it makes sense because there's some people who just want temp job, right? Like a temporary job. Maybe they're just like, oh, I want to stay in Germany for a year. And maybe whilst I'm here, I want to have a job also so that I have money. And there is a mother somewhere, or father somewhere who's like, or a sick person somewhere who's like, you know what? I'm gonna take a year off and focus on myself, focus on my child. Like, why are we not thinking about this? Hello, everybody has different needs. It's like a puzzle, right? Different pieces fit in different places. So why don't we make pieces that fit in that missing piece to complete the puzzle, and we can remove it when we find the original piece of the puzzle? Like, what is our life? Makes so much sense. Why didn't I even think about this? But now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, it's perfect. Wow. Wow. I feel like I just had epiphany right there. Okay, let's go back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, guys, so I feel like before we end this video, it is important to note that what we've talked about thus far is by no means a complete comprehensive list of all of the different types of federally protected leave that you have here in Germany.
Plus, there are a number of other federal and state holidays,
Yeah.
which brings us
When I
to the
see
next
kids, I
point
just
where we ask
laugh and
you
smile.
to
It's
help
like
us with our
small
next
humans.
video.
Yeah, so for our next video that we're planning, we're going to be doing a deep dive into federal and state holidays between the US and Germany. Specifically, we're really interested in learning more about those unique holidays. Now, I need to clarify here. I'm not talking about those weird, obscure, like weirdly hardly ever known about holidays. Like, for example, did you know that in the United States on January 21st, there's something called Squirrel Appreciation Day?
Did you just make that up?
I didn't. I actually looked this one up. There is something called Squirrel Appreciation Day.
Do we like
You know what? They deserve
take a
some
day to
appreciation.
Do they?
appreciate
They're
the
like the
squirrel?
worst creatures in the world.
I don't know. The ones we saw in Treberg were actually quite
It's true,
entertaining.
they had mohawks.
They did have mohawks.
The mohawk.
Yeah.
But no, we're actually talking about holidays that businesses shut down, and most importantly,
I want to
for
see this
children
video because we talked
getting
about
the day
this.
off from school.
Yeah, so for example, who is Casimir Pulaski and why do Illinois school kids get the day off?
And why do Pennsylvanians look for a skittish groundhog out of a hole to predict the seasons every February 2nd?
Yeah, these are some great examples here.
Okay.
But the thing is, we honestly haven't been living in Germany long enough to learn all of the nuances of the individual states, regions, or cities that might actually have some pretty similar holidays.
And we haven't lived in every US state to know them all by heart, and we know
Nope.
there are tons of really goofy holidays out there. But this is the time we want to ask you. Please let us know down in the comments below.
Yeah, exactly.
Pancake
What are
Day.
the unique holidays that are in
should be.
your personal state,
Like a
city,
week of
region?
eating pancakes.
What can you share with
It's a
us
must.
that's a unique holiday that you find interesting? And kind of counter to that,
I want to see the
how
mock
do you
job.
celebrate it? Please let us know down in the comment section below.
All right, everybody, that wraps up our video for today. And as usual, if you liked what you saw today, be sure to hit that thumbs up button.
And for more content from the Black Forest family, hit that subscribe button.
And until next time,
Done.
Fist bald.
Cheers!
I've subscribed. Bloopers.
Or maybe you just want to take some time off to go visit an exotic place and a new beach. It's been so... I guess how really time off... I'm babbling now, sorry.
And by contrast, Germany has many different... No. And by contrast, Germany has many different name... What? By the Federal of... The Federal what? Federal Family and Medical Act?
Medical Leave Act.
Federal and Medical Leave Act, which
Federal Family. And again, guys...
Hold on, I'm still licking them. Licking my lips. Got wine on them and they're chapped.
Okay.
Glossy.
I feel you.
Gloss. Sparkles.
Like if you leave the intro outro parts of and some middle parts of my videos, you will be like, this girl's crazy, because I talk to myself. Sometimes I'm like singing, shouting, crying. Everything happens before this part wherein we act as if we know what we are talking about, and we act not necessarily professional, but a tamer version of ourselves, right? But yes, behind the scenes,
You're really talkative tonight. Or an Arbeitsunfähigkeitsbescheinigung.
ooh, she good.
You
Bescheinigung?
should probably say that one a few more
Shiny
times.
girl.
Arbeits... God. God, this is a...
Arbeitsunfähig. I can't even do it.
Okay, this word I think has more letters than the entire alphabet.
Arbeitsunfähigkeitsbescheinigung.
There's no R. Unfähigkeits.
Arbeitsunfähigkeitsbescheinigung. Arbeitsunfähigkeitsbescheinigung.
I don't know why I like the last
This is...
syllable.
I feel like this is one of those like words that I feel like when you're at the Ausländerbehörde and they're like, how badly do you want to be a German citizen? How fast can you say this word? Say it 5 times really fast.
Arbeitsunfähigkeitsbescheinigung.
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 What? I cannot.
Dear God. All right, let's try that again. Probably also mention. Oops.
Oh god.
Oops.
It's
Oh
okay.
god.
I fixed it.
Oh god, it's ruined.
I fixed it.
We have to start all over again.
Okay.
I like the beginning. Okay then. Okay, so at least we know how the things happen, right? When they're doing these videos, because it feels like it's so perfect. There's no cuts in between, but now we saw that it's not necessarily always. But anyways, on topic, yeah, this was a very great comparison. I feel like the Netherlands one that we watched, where it wasn't as in depth as this one, but it basically was the same thing that they talked about. Like they talked about the same thing, like the leave, the balance of work and life, vacation and all that stuff. But I really want to watch the holiday one just to see if American have more holidays, or does German have more holiday, or Europe in general that is non-working, right? But anyways, thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. We have a typhoon, so I'm on the mic.